In today's Midweek Ramble, I'm sharing with you my top 5 favorite hand knits. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I will share with you a bonus finished object that is one of my favorites. And this will be the first time I've ever shared this finished object since it was completed a year ago. So grab your knitting, something cozy to drink, and let's get into it. Hello, 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 and welcome to this week's Midweek Ramble. My name is Taylor, and I will be your host. This is a video series where I expound or ramble on about one topic in particular, usually surrounding the fiber arts, knitting more specifically. In today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you my top 5 favorite hand knits that I still currently have in my possession. I kind of used a ranking system based on how much use I've gotten out of these, how much joy they bring to me, and whether or not I would knit it again in the future. And that's kind of how I based my selections. Many of the items I'm going to be sharing with you guys are pretty simple, nothing extravagant, nothing over the top. So let's get into the top 5 hand knits that I currently have in my possession. Let's see if we can't inspire you to cast onto one of these projects. Okay, my first, so it's gotten a lot of love, this guy. So here is my Eileen bag. It's a market bag. And it's knit, it's not crochet. I see an awful lot of market bags that are crochet and I love them. And I have one in particular that I really want to cast on. This one, at the time that I made this, I wasn't crocheting yet. And so it worked for me because I was able to knit it and I love it. It has this really cool, almost looks like a crochet fabric. It has a a rectangular bottom that's just stockinette. Super cool. And then it has this real thick shoulder strap that I really love. And actually, the way that this was made, maybe it's like a tubular, no, I don't know how I made it, because if you look at the edge of the strap, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but you see how rounded and nice that is? I haven't looked at the pattern to know, but I'm not exactly sure what that construction is. It's not an I-cord edge. I don't really know what the deal is with that, but it's a really nice thick shoulder strap. And I love that aspect of this because market bags tend to, I don't know, when you're wearing it on your shoulder like this and you have anything in it, even if it's just like your phone and a wallet and just the general things you keep in a bag, it starts to kind of pull. And if the strap is too narrow, it just gets real long and kind of looks sloppy. And I think one of the things that really drew me to this was this really wide shoulder strap that was going to hold up to the weight that you put in this. And I weighed this sucker down. I know I took it with us, excuse me, on a trip to Alaska. And I had put so much knitting in this. I have a picture of it. I just loaded this thing. So it was full to the brim and it held up really well. It's gotten so much love. I've washed it several times. I've used it several times over the years. And because of all that use, I guess, I have this situation happening here. It's just a hole. Something happened with the yarn. It tore. And now I have a hole here that I need to fix, and I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do that, but I need to take care of it because I don't want to lose this bag, and I know that that's something I could fix as long as I don't let it get too bad. And I'm a little worried, yeah, it's happening here too, which leads me to the yarn. So, okay, so yeah, you can see that it's starting to happen here. I don't really know. I guess what I could do, if worse came to worse, I just need to go and YouTube Google. I just need to search how to fix broken yarn in a knit project. I feel like I should know how to do that by now. I made this for a knit along that I was hosting on the podcast when I first started, and we called it the Great Unravel. Yeah, it was called the Great Unravel, and the purpose of it was to go to a thrift store or go to your own closet, find a sweater that you no longer wear or thrift a sweater from a thrift store and harvest the yarn from that sweater to use to create a project. So kind of repurposing, old yarn in a new project, and it was called the Great Unravel. And it was really cool. We got a lot of people on board, and it was really fun to see the different yarns that were coming from these sweaters that people were finding at thrift stores and then harvesting that yarn. You can really find some great fiber by harvesting it from thrifted sweaters. So if you want a really nice kind of budget way to get good yarn, go to the thrift store and see what kind of sweaters you can find. I have a video way back in all of my videos. It's one of my early videos that shows you how to unravel a sweater at the seams. So if you are interested in doing something like that, you can check out that video. I'll link to it down below in the description box, and I'll also link to it up here. But it's a really good way if you want to harvest budget yarn and have it still be really cool yarn and use it for a project, highly recommend it. But that's where this came from. So this was a mix of Ramie and cotton. When I got it, it was like a kind of like a summer sweater. It is kind of just like, you can tell it's well loved, but every time I see it, and I actually just about 2 months ago realized it had a hole in it, which bummed me out big time, but I use it so frequently for lots of different things. And it's just a really cute purse if you want something kind of funky in the summertime or in the springtime. I really love it. So this is my number 5 favorite knit. I highly recommend the pattern if you've been wanting to make a market bag. It's just a really simple and pretty fast, and it's a really good market bag if you need something like that. So that is my number 5 favorite hand knit. My number 4 is a hat. So I've knit this hat twice. One of the times I knit this, it was for a gift that I sent off to my brother who lives in Dallas. It's the hat that I reach for most when it comes time to like being, when it comes winter time and we're wearing hats and getting cozy. I'm not a huge fan of pom-poms, but this one doesn't bother me. And I kind of get a kick out of I just get a kick out of wearing this hat in general. So this is the Winter's Fern hat by Trin and Nelly. I knit this, I'm looking down at my notes. I completed it October 15th of 2018. I love it. So this is knit in a lot of different brands of yarn. I used stash yarn for this whole thing. And actually the blue yarn, so it's a worsted weight hat, but the blue yarn here is actually a DK weight, and it seemed to work out because there's so little of it in the actual color work motif. But I kind of like how you see the various weights of yarn in there. Some of them bulge out a little bit. It just gives it this really slubby rustic look. Ugh, I really love it. So this is just a great hat. So I used in here make sure I get this right. Okay, so the brown color is Cascade 220. The navy color is Debbie Bliss Cashmerino DK. And that navy color is popping in through these little spots right here. My orange color is Malabrigo Rios. It's a single ply. Wait, no, it's not. It's just a worsted plied yarn. That's Malabrigo Rios. And then the natural color is Lion Brand LB Collection Pure Wool. I love that yarn, by the way. It is a single ply. I remember that skein that I had of that pure wool. Lion Brand is one of those brands that kind of, it's nostalgic in terms of like when you started knitting. It's usually one of the more affordable options in the beginning. You can get it at some of the bigger box stores, but they also have lines of yarn that are really a little bit more luxurious, but still affordable, nicer fiber contents. This was one of those. It was just a bare, undyed, pure wool single ply yarn, and it was worsted, and it was really lovely in the skein. And I just loved using it. I almost think I still have a little bit of it left in my stash. I can't remember, but I love it. I love it. It was an easy pattern, really intuitive. You don't have to use 4 colors. I added the navy the little navy bits of blue. I kind of just added that myself because I felt like that blue really popped in this pairing of colors, but you don't have to add that. So, and that leaves you with a 3 color motif, which is pretty simple if you're kind of just getting into color work. I love it. I think it's great. So I highly recommend this if you need a quick color work gift knit even, or something for yourself. It's fun to come up with colors. Oh, and before I move on, hold on. One of the things that I did differently on this, and I added it to my Ravelry notes, was that I used an alternating cast on. It almost casts the stitches on in like a ribbed pattern, so that when you do your ribbing, you don't have like this like harsh line of stitches at the top. I don't know. I just figured I'd mention it because I did have it in my pattern notes or in my project notes. I used the alternating cast on, and I said here that I loved it. So there you go. Okay, this next one is, these are the fire pit mitts. This is a design by yours truly. I came up with this design, I want to say, I don't know, back in 2018 at some time. I wanted a pair of fingerless mitts that went up the arm and that kind of had some positive ease, that weren't really snug fitting, that kind of were shaped to like my arm. And so I came up with this pattern. Very simple. You can actually purchase this pattern on Ravelry. It's available for a few different sizes and then a few different lengths, actually 2 different lengths. of like arm, I guess. But I love these. Okay, so these mitts were the first ones that I knit. This was my sample. And I knit these using Lion Brand Fisherman's Wool. I have a love for Lion Brand Fisherman's Wool. I think, again, this is my opinion. I think that it is probably the best rustic yarn option on a budget if you want something worsted, because it's worsted weight. And it's kind of amazing that you can get this really lovely lanolin rich, rustic, 100% untreated wool yarn in the quantity that you're able to get at the price point that you can get it at like a big box store. So I don't know. I absolutely love that. And it's available in all kinds of places. I mean, if you're in the US, you can get it at Michael's, you can get it at Joann's. I think you can get it at Walmart. And it's great. It's great yarn. I've never had an issue with this yarn. Knitting with it is a pleasure because it's kind of nice and sticky. It's easy to kind of work because it's not slipping on your needles. It's not slipping through your hands. It's just a really nice yarn. And it still has a lot of that lanolin in there, which they say on the yarn ball. That's like a source of pride for Lion Brand, is that it's a real nice lanolin rich yarn. And you can feel that in your hands. And I think it's really, really lovely. If you want, a really great yarn substitute on a very big, like if you're on a pretty strict budget and you want a really nice rustic yarn substitution for a worsted weight yarn, this is really an exceptional way to go. I think you can get, I don't remember how many yards come in a ball of that yarn. It comes like this. Okay. It comes like this. So you can see it's just like a big hank of it. And one of those, 100% wool, unless it's a tweed. If it's a tweed, because they have a couple that are tweed, you get 78% wool, 13% acrylic, and 9% rayon, and that's because it's tweed. And the little neps in the yarn are not wool. Those are made up of like a acrylic fiber. So all those little like speckles that you see in the tweed, those are what make the acrylic portion of the yarn. But the actual yarn itself is 100% wool, and that's for the tweed. But this here, which is just the solid, this is 100% wool, 348 yards. Yeah, so that's amazing. It retails at $13.99. So $13.99 for 348 yards of what I think is a fantastic rustic yarn for some of those heavier rustic knit sweaters or hats or socks or what have you. Great for color work if you want kind of a lopey style sweater with something really sticky that's going to hold all of those color work motifs in line. I really can't recommend this enough. And I think that I kind of think it's like an untapped resource amongst a lot of knitters that are on a budget. So, but anyway, back on track. These are the fire pit mitts, patterned by yours truly. You can find it on Ravelry. There are sizes for smaller hands to larger hands, but they are pretty, forgiving. I feel like this particular size could fit most, but I love them. I love how rustic they look. Very like Outlander vibes. So cozy. Woo, they're really nice and toasty when it's cold. I love how it kind of goes up the arm like this. So maybe you're wearing like a long sleeve t-shirt like what I have on and like a vest. I have like a down vest that I wear sometimes. These are a great way to kind of compensate for not having like a heavier sleeve. I don't know. I love them. I love them. They're great. It's kind of like a shameless plug because I wrote the pattern. I'll link to that pattern down below in the description box. I had the shorter pair that I made for my husband, but I don't know where they are. I don't know where he keeps them. I was looking around the house for them and I can't find them. So I'll have to talk to him about that. I promise if you need a gift knit for someone special or a few different people, that's gonna do it for you guys because it's a great pattern. Okay, moving on. My next favorite knit is one that if you've been watching the podcast for at least a year, you've seen these before. And I'm gonna have to apologize in advance because these are not freshly knit. These have been worn, kind of like my fire pit mitts, these have been worn a lot. And I'm not actually sure if I've washed them since wearing them last. So I don't know, but these are fantastic. These are the Sunday socks by Petite Knit. Now, when I first shared these with you guys on the podcast, I kind of front loaded by letting you know these are being knit in a single ply yarn. And not just any single ply yarn, superwash single ply yarn. Now granted, the strands of single ply yarn, there's two being held together to create a worsted weight yarn. So it's two strands of single ply yarn held together. And at the time when I made these, I went on and on about how I think that's going to be okay. I think that's going to add to like the integrity of the fabric, and I'm not going to have as much issue with wear and tear. And honestly, for a really long time, that worked for me. I was able to bank on that because they held up for a really long time. And so I was really happy about that. But I wore the hell out of these socks, you guys. I wore them all the time. And we have kind of like faux hardwood, and it has this texture to it that I think wreaks havoc on knit socks if you're wearing them all the time. And I think that might have been what happened here. But I'm sure it also has something to do with the fact that this is knit using a soft superwash merino single ply yarn. But okay, now that we've said that. So these are the Sunday socks by Petite Knit. I'll pop pictures up of what they looked like when they were a little bit more fresh. I love these. I love the design. I have like one of my ends poking out right here. I love the design. I love the yarn. I love how soft it is in this sock. They are just the coziest little things to slip on. I really love how, considering that this is a single ply superwash yarn and I have worn the bejeebies out of these, I really love how, and they've been washed. They've been washed in like the washing machine washed and probably dried. I can't really remember. But there's not a lot of pilling going on considering. And of course, this part of the fabric is holding up beautifully. It's so squishy. I just want to do this. It's so lovely. If we move down the sock, just look how cute these are. Great gift knit, by the way. They knit up really fast. I mean, it's like an Aran worsted weight sock. Here's where we start to see all the shenanigans. Oh, now that I'm looking at the heel, I'm realizing I've fixed these. I've like mended them. So here's the heel on this one. You can kind of see here that I've like mended the heel already. That's how much I loved these, you guys. It's like, I'm not gonna let them go. Yeah, so there's a little mending happening. And then down here, look at that, how sad. It's just, that's the ball of my foot. So obviously it's gonna get beat up. And I apologize that these are not like pristine and clean. Let me just put my really dirty sock in front of your face. If you're not a sock knitter, this might be offensive, so I apologize. But you can see there's a hole going on there. And I mean, I could just go in there and mend that. I really could. I just haven't taken the time to do it yet. Yeah, I mean, I could do that. Now, just holding these in my hands, I'm just thinking, oh, just do it. Fix them all day long until this whole thing just becomes a patched up zombie of a sock. And I don't know, I mean, I love the yarn. I really love the way it feels, but I don't know if I could bring myself to do another one in the same yarn, only knowing its fate after a year. I just love them. They're fantastic. Really, really great sock pattern. If you just want socks for around your house, if you're just trying to keep the toesies warm, this is the way to go. I wouldn't wear these with shoes. They're too thick for that, and that's not what they're intended for. They're just intended for cozy, you know, those cozy moments. I love them. Okay, the next one that I'm going to share with you is also Petite Knit. Now, I know a lot of us, Petite Knit, she's everywhere, Petite Knit. It's like, I get it. But there's a reason why people knit her patterns, and that's because she just has this like, she knows how to do seamless top-down construction to create garments that don't look saggy and all of those things that we tend to think about seamless garments. Her designs are good. That's all I'm gonna say. This is my absolute, not just my absolute favorite hand knit, it is my favorite sweater that I have in my wardrobe. Between this, my hand knits, and my store-bought sweaters. This one tops the charts, you guys. I can't tell you enough how much I love this. This is the No Frills sweater by Petite Knit. I'm not gonna put it on just because I'm gonna put on another one in a little bit and it'll be so warm in here. This is, I'll stand it back here so I can at least hold it up for you. So here we go. No Frills, Petite Knit, basic top-down, seamless raglan construction, nothing crazy intricate, short row shaping around the neck, which is also not complicated, but it's just everything. It's just so simple and soothing and relaxing. And I love it. I don't know. I just don't know what else to say. I don't know. I do know that she calls for a tubular cast on, bind off, all that kind of stuff. And I didn't do it on any aspect of the sweater and it doesn't bother me. Because there's mohair in there, you would never even know. So here's my neckline. It's Okay, here we go. So here's one of the things I really love about this. Sometimes on lighter weight sweaters, fingering weight sweaters, DK weight sweaters, the neckline ribbing isn't tight enough. In my opinion, aesthetically speaking, it just isn't tight enough. It kind of looks like it should have been tighter, that the ribs are kind of, there's a little bit of a wonkiness to them, so that when you get to the stockinette fabric, it's like bulgy. And this, the way the tension that we have here, I feel like that ribbing, it's nice and neat and tidy. The tension looks right. And it's really nice in contrast to that stockinette fabric down below. And it's the same on the cuff. I like the shape of the cuff. It's nice and clean and neat. And then on the hemline of the sweater as well. And another thing I really love about this hemline is that it's a nice deep hemline. I want to say that's 3 inches, which is, in my opinion, an ideal hemline depth. And I just love that. It can be worn by literally anybody. So it's not just a lady's sweater. It's not just a gentleman's sweater. It's an anybody's sweater. It's just such a classic design, which actually makes me think that there is no body shaping, because I remember that being like, oh, this is kind of a unisex design. There's no like extra body shaping happening here. I don't know. It's good. It's just so good. Okay, now I can't not talk about the yarn, because that's another one of the reasons why I love this design so much. Or this knit so much. So this is knit using Fiber for the People yarn. I used 2 different yarns here. I used the base yarn, meaning the yarn that's under the mohair, is Merino Nylon 2-ply in the Sapphire colorway. And then the mohair is actually what's creating all of that variegation. And that's Fiber for the People Kid Mohair Silk in the Angel Rust colorway. I'll show a picture of kind of the yarns separate from this so you can see what they look like. But that's what I used to create this. And that really beautiful variegated mohair over the top of a solid kind of base yarn. It's really magical what happens. You can even see that there's like some color flashing right here, which I think looks really cool. I did not alternate anything here. So this is just straight out of the ball. And you can see that too, because there's like a little bit of a, I don't know, what do you want to call that? Like a fade. It's more reddish rust down here and blue at the top. But it just works. It works. I love it. Such a great design. Really beautiful yarn. You guys, I can't recommend this sweater enough. If you want a first time sweater and you're not too intimidated by knitting something that's like a DK weight, this is really a good way to go. It'll slow you down. Because it's just a slower knit. A lot of people will mention that they kind of felt like it was a slog at certain times. It is well worth the slog. And this, along with anything else I've shared with you here, I will definitely knit this again. Okay, enough about that. Now I would like to share with you a bonus finished knit that I have never shared on the channel, because I kind of went on a podcast hiatus right after finishing it, so I never really shared it. So I want to share that with you guys. It is my Magnolia Bloom by Camilla Vod. I knit this last year, and I really love it. So the last time I really talked about this at all was in my Bobble tutorial. I kind of did a little tutorial about how to make your bobbles more perky. Thank you to Amy Palco, who gave me the tip that inspired that tutorial. I'll link to that here as well. But yeah, so that's the last time I shared anything about this. It's been that long and I've never taken any real finished object photos. This is the Magnolia Bloom, Camilla Vod, really lovely textured yoke with some like lace and bobbles. If you're not into bobbles, this might not be the one for you, but I think that the bobbles are done in a way on this design that's just real kind of classic. And in a darker yarn like what I have here, it's subtle, I guess, if that's the right way to put it. So I like it. And of course, using that tip that Amy shared with me that you can find on that tutorial, the bobbles are nice and perky. Look how they stand out like that. It has a doubled over collar. Who doesn't just love the squish factor on a doubled collar like that? It's just so good. I love how thick and luxurious that is. And then it has just, your basic stockinette body. And the sleeves don't have shaping. So you get some like kind of like a nice like bell effect happening down here. Ugh, it is so pretty. I haven't pulled this out since last season, so it's really nice to give it a good squish all over again. Super squishy. The yarn that I used is also Fiber for the People. This is a pairing of Surrey Silky and Merino Single DK. It's a DK weight single ply, 100% superwash merino, and it's in the Endor colorway. So it is a real beautiful pine forest green, real deep color. Such a good green. There. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and put this on and show it to you for the first time since I finished it, like actually on. So let's do that now. Okay, so here we go. So this sweater has been sharing room in my my sweater drawer with other sweaters that are lighter. So there's like little fuzz balls on here from lighter yarns, but here it is. This is my Magnolia Bloom sweater by Camilla Vod. I'll stand up so you can see. Let's actually move this chair out of the way so we can kind of... My Magnolia Bloom sweater. Finally, I'm putting it on and sharing it with the world. And I really love it. It's so comfy. It's really comfy. The Surrey is warm. It's not as warm as it would be if this were mohair. Mohair is much warmer and harder for kind of getting that like temperature control, but the Surrey is really nice. I think I have like a knot right there. It's fine. As long as it's holding itself together, we're good. But it's cozy, it's comfy. It's a really good one here in the climate where I live. Sweaters like this are kind of our jackets. So when we know we're gonna be outside for lengths of time during the winter where it does get into the 30s, this is enough to keep us warm if we have something underneath it. And so that's kind of what this would be used for here in the wintertime. So yeah, super cozy, super soft. The yarn, it's like pettable and squishable. I really love it. I think that's all I have to say about it really, other than just to recommend the pattern. It's a really lovely pattern to knit. The lace work is super easy. It's not complicated, pretty intuitive. The bobbles are not difficult. And if you want them to be nice and perky, you can follow the tutorial that I give, or you can omit them completely. And I actually think that there are tips in the pattern for getting rid of them if you just don't want them. And the sweater would be lovely without them. You don't need to have them. You could do something else there if you wanted. But yeah, very, very lovely, very wearable, and I recommend it. Now I'm going to take it off because I am burning up in this really cozy sweater, and I'm probably going to have little Surrey fibers all over my shirt here. Oh no. No, it didn't shed. That's nice. That's my bonus, my Magnolia Bloom sweater. It is one of my favorites. It's not quite as like go-to wearable as my No Frills, partly because of the really deep green color and the bobbles. It gives it a very festive kind of holiday vibe, but it's perfect for the holidays and it gets you all winter through. It's just that kind of cheery, festive sweater that you can wear to special occasions, or if you just want to be cozy in your house if it's cold enough for wearing a sweater like that in your house. It's just not like that here, but that's okay. That is it for my top 5 favorite hand knits. Hopefully you found something here that might inspire you for your next project or maybe a little gift knitting. Before I go, I want to mention that my family, we are leaving town this weekend to go visit some friends. So there will not be a traditional podcast episode on Sunday, but in lieu of the podcast episode, I am going to be uploading content for you to fill in that void. I'm going to be uploading the kind of the cutting room floor of my knitting opinions video from last Midweek Ramble. I still have a lot of knitting opinions that I did not share on that video. So I'm going to recompile and put them back together in a part 2 of that video. And that's what I will be uploading on Sunday in place of the podcast. Also, if you enjoyed yourself or took anything away from this episode, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Definitely subscribe if you would like to see more content. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit here with me today. It means more than you know. I've enjoyed myself immensely. I will see you guys soon. Until next time I see you, happy knitting, happy crochet, happy making, happy whatever it is that you're doing. Take care, be well. I'll see you soon. Bye.